today to be with you for another Aspire Plus session. And today we're going to be talking about the innovative world of data science and artificial intelligence, as mentioned. So data science and AI, these two have become one of the most talked about topics over the past year due to the rise in digitization and the ever-growing technological advancements. As you know, COVID has actually brought, a little push to digitization, and that's really felt very strongly here in Malaysia. And data science and AI has brought significant changes in today's IT and daily lives, and making us part of the data-driven society. So as the world becomes more digitized and industries become much smarter with the growing need to rely on data to create better products, today I have my A-list panelists of panel speakers that can actually share a little bit more with us about how AI has impacted the economy and even our daily lives. So at this point, I would like to welcome my esteemed speakers for today's session. We start off with Ms. Sharala, who's the founder and CEO and group CEO of the Center of Applied Data Science. Hi, Ms. Sharala.
Hi, Nada. Thanks for having me. Thanks. And hi, everyone else.
Ms. Chua Chai Ping, who is the Human Resources Director of Experian. Hi.
Hi, Nada. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And the famous Fong Tuan, FT, who is the Human Resource and General Affairs Director of Samsung Malaysia. Hi, FT. Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you again. Hi, everyone. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion in the next 1 hour.
Yes. And Dr. Shamim, who is the Head of Digital Skills Development, Group PCO Maybank. Hi, Dr. Shamim.
Hi, Nada. Hi, everyone. By the way, if you hear a dog barking, that is my neighbor's dog. It is out of my control, okay?
I was wondering about that just now. Okay.
So welcome to...
We're having a BBC moment, right? Kids everywhere, neighbor's dogs everywhere. This is the new norm.
Yes. And last but definitely not least, we have Sabrina Zuraimi, who is a data scientist in Yahoo Japan. So hi, Sabrina, nice to have you on board.
Hi, Nada. Hi, everyone. Looking forward to sharing and learning with everyone here today. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So we actually, as we look forward to today's session, we've actually prepared a little clip to share a little bit more about what you can expect. I'll get the team to play it right about now. Okay, thank you so much. Welcome back. And as it says over there, I mean, be part of the data revolution. It sounds so, big and fancy, but I think without realizing it, we're actually living it on our day-to-day lives. Subconsciously, we're actually going through a data revolution without even actively, consciously realizing it. And we're part of it already. So how I'd like to start the session is by asking my panelists to just share a little bit more about what they do in their respective roles. I'll start off with Ms. Sharala. Could you share a little bit about what you do in CADS, please?
Oh my God. Somebody told me if I could explain that to my 12-year-old, I've succeeded, but I failed miserably. I think I can start with why CATS was set up. It's basically a purpose for me when I came back from Europe, from Sweden. Basically, it was a huge issue about graduate unemployability in Malaysia, and also the big brain drain we talk about. Malaysia still has the highest brain drain in ASEAN if you look at the LinkedIn data. So when I came back, we set up CATS because this is 2014, 2015 that we thought that analytics was going to be the next wave or the most important thing that you need for Industry 4.0. The purpose has always have been, in the company is about future-proofing the workforce and especially this part of the world. So we started with analytics very early on, and we got questioned all the time by university VCs and companies. Are you sure or not this is going to be another hype? We trained up, hundreds of chemical students, which they came back and they were not employed. So I wish I had enough data. It was not Googleable to get that kind of information, but we could see, countries and nations around the world is moving towards that, and we wanted Malaysia to have the head start. A huge ambition of mine to make Kuala Lumpur the hub for analytics in ASEAN. Big ask, big ambition. Everything about me is always big. Shamim knows that. Try to reach the impossible. At least when you fail short of it, not flat. So that's how CAT started off, and it was always about creating data. Actually, we did not plan to become an education company at that time, but we couldn't get talent. So part of the mantra in the company was, you can't get them, let's make them. So we went out to US and we got, the incubator program from US and localized it in Malaysia. We reached out to Harvard Business School because we realized that companies didn't have proper strategy at that point. So that's what CATS was founded with a purpose and a need. And throughout the conversation, you realize the need is always about me and what we went through as Malaysian, as a local grad. And that is why when I got to meet you guys and Abil, it was a huge ask that what can we do to get more youngsters excited about data science. And that's basically what we want to do. Because coming from an Asian family, if you're not a doctor, engineer, lawyer, accountant, basically you're an Asian F, aren't you? So data science requires a whole family to allow and encourage you to become one. If your family doesn't understand what that requires, then you don't have an opportunity to take that. So I'm excited the panelists from Experian, Maybank, Samsung coming out and telling that we need this kind of talent, and I'm very excited about that. So basically that's what I do, I guess. I advocate this.
Thank you, Michelle. I think it's really important because, I work with so many companies, right? And they keep telling me there is a demand for it. Or we're hiring IT and data science graduates. Do you know where to find them? Do you know where to find them? Everyone wants them. But then, like you said, we need to then make them if they're not readily available. But it does take time. So we need to start somewhere. Next, Mr. Chai Ping, could you share a little bit more, please?
Thanks, Nada. So I joined Experian. So Experian is a data and technology company, and building on what Sharala said before, right? So I'm not a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an accountant. So the closest I could do was at least marry an accountant, and hopefully, do something for the nation, and kind of build for the nation as well, right? So because we are a data and technology company, and I think the last few years now we've kind of grown the company, and I actually, to my surprise, there are many good data engineers out there, or data analysts out there, and software engineers out there, right? So if truly, Malaysia wants to get into that digital space, that digital economy, even the government has been saying about getting into that digital economy by 2030, and so on and so forth, right? So I thought, at the very least, right, try to build that, right? So Nada, you were saying this before, Sharala, you were saying that before as well. I'm sure the panelists will be saying the same thing. So and is Malaysia, so Experian Malaysia is actually a global hub, right? So it's one of 4 global hubs, and I thought that if I can't get world attention in other ways, maybe through my career, I'll get a bit of sponsorship and stakeholder buy-in, right, to build more in Malaysia. So we have doubled the headcount. Truly, like the STEM program and all that, right? We try to propagate that, cross-fertilize that, build that, and and we hire actually many fresh graduates as well. So hopefully through that, we get to aspire and realize, right, that digital economy as soon as we can. And offshoot of that, right, Malaysia is very, very well positioned, right, to play in that space. And cybersecurity then will also, be a big, a spin-off for us as well. Because we deal with so much data, we have been around for over 100 years, and we've collected so much data. That's why, it's now, the term is now called big data, right? But you don't realize, if you talk about data revolution and all that, you don't realize you're dealing with data on a daily basis. I'm a HR practitioner. Traditionally, I also am, the site leader and the location leader for Experian Malaysia. So I deal with data on a daily basis. I can't pretend I can count 1, 2, 3 and more, but I leverage, right, on the experts around me. And because of that humongous data that we have, now we have so many software engineers that help us build, right, the software to help us to predict the data, to analyze the data, and so on and so forth. So that's why I talked about software engineering, and also our analytics COE is huge in Malaysia as well. And hopefully through that, we get to again propagate, right, and fertilize that kind of talent and grow that talent, right, not just for Malaysia and hopefully for the world as well. So probably pause there, and then I'll just hear from the other panelists as well. Thanks, Nada.
Thank you. FT, could you share, please?
Okay, I guess I'm the odd one out. Obviously, I'm the only guy, including the host. And I believe, I'm not sure whether I'm the only engineer, but I think I am the only.
I was about to mention, you're an engineer.
Since, I am the very orthodox, either Asian parents' dream jobs for their kids, right? Either you're an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. The worst is engineer, so among the four, so I'm one of the four. So, well, what can I say? Instead of talking about my job, more interestingly is this: a lot of us, all of us use data anyway, right? Regardless of what work we do or what kind of organization that we work for or work with. So we use data all the time, but I'm fortunate enough that we actually built hardware as well, so that those data can be collected, those data can be curated, those data can be compiled, can be transformed into information, and then transformed into insights. So I'm fortunate enough to be in a company that not only use data, not only make decisions based on those data, information that comes out of those data, synthesizing those information into insight that help us make decisions, which technically I would imagine those would be kind of a definition of what we'll be talking about later today. But also what kind of platform and infrastructure that we need to have to ensure that we get accurate data that is timely, that we are able to then sift through these mountains and this humongous amount of noise, I would say. I think the greatest challenge that I have and my colleagues have on a daily basis, whether it's in design, R&D, sales, marketing, or even just manufacturing, is just this ability to sift, filter the right kind of data that we need, the information that we require, so that we can then just drown out all this noise, so that we can focus on what is actually significant and important. So I think this is something that we do all the time, right? I think Sharala, Shamin, Raimi, probably Raimi even more than any of us, because that's what the job is, Chai-Ping as well, is how do we then prioritize data sets? We prioritize information clusters or insights package. Which one do we use and how do we use it? I will explain a bit more about how we use AI in Samsung. Again, we are very fortunate because I have the opportunity to feel, touch, enjoy, experience. Sometimes not very good experience. Sometimes better. AI is not a silver bullet. I will start off with that first. It is not a silver bullet. You cannot kill all vampires using AI. There are certain vampires you still need to use garlic. Some you still need to use certain jumpy and so on. It is one of the tools, yes, but it is not the one and all. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that first. Would certainly look forward to the only person here who's actually a data scientist. That it would be interesting. So I'll pause here.
Okay. Thank you, FT. I think now we go into, hearing thoughts from Dr. Shamim and also Sabrina. So I'll start with Dr. Shamim. Maybe you can share about what do you actually do as, head of digital skills development in Maybank?
Okay, thank you, Nada. So good evening, everyone. I suppose I have to go back into my background because my current job is not something that I've been doing since I started my career about now, close to 20 years, which is quite shocking to me. Today I went into my profile and I saw my age again, which is shockingly, and FT, I knew FT, 8 years ago, FT, I don't know whether you have the same, shocking experience on your age now.
Every day I see the mirror, it's a shock.
Exactly. So now when I first started my career, I have to say that I was a programmer. I love programming, okay? I was a techie. In fact, I had an internship with Microsoft and I was doing MIS work. In fact, I was creating their automatic financial reconciliation of accounts because I also was in the accounting. I studied accounting, right? Then after that, after I graduated, I actually worked for a HR consulting firm, and that's where I picked up HR. But in that firm, I also developed a HR system actually. And then of course did consulting and so forth. Then after that, I went to continue my studies in education. Actually, my area was specifically looking at emotional intelligence and whether emotional intelligence predicts success. And I would say that research background now is quite synonymous with machine learning, statistics and so forth. So as a researcher, we deal also with a lot of data sets, and we are constantly trying to predict behaviors. We're constantly trying to predict, what might make someone successful, for example. And so that has then subsequently helped me in my current job because now I can actually relate to what are the kind of skills that people would need in order to learn that quantitative data literacy, right? But in the context of Maybank, I think our mission, which I think, and FT, I have to say, he was a part of Maybank before, and our mission is to humanize financial services. Now, many people would ask us whether this is still relevant in a digitalized world. And I would say that we are very proud. In fact, we use AI to, in fact, increase our human connection with our customers. Meaning to say that with AI, we can actually touch new customer segments. For example, people who we would not loan or provide any credit facilities before, we can now do that because we have better insights on people, and rather than broad generalizations of segments, right? For example. And the other thing is that with data, intelligence, artificial intelligence, you can also increase customer experience. So now we are able to allow people to do digital banking seamlessly. I hope many people, love to use the M2U app, and we are continuously trying to increase the accessibility to banking services for many populations and regionally. So that's how Maybank is using, artificial intelligence, broadly speaking.
Thank you, Dr. Shamim. I think it's also quite, you had such a colorful career journey and very diverse as well. And to end up here is actually quite interesting. Sabrina, could you share with us a little bit of what you do in Japan?
Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. I think this is my first time meeting all of you. My name is Sabrina, and I'm a data scientist at Yahoo Japan. I'm actually a bit nervous today because I think career-wise, I'm the youngest career-wise, I'm the youngest here. This is only my second year working. So I graduated with a master's in computer science, and my research was on a subset of you can call it a subset of artificial intelligence called computer vision, the science of teaching computers how to see. So my master's thesis was on a machine learning algorithm called graph convolutional network for understanding video, automatically understanding video. So it's a very exciting field with applications for autonomous driving and such. But yeah, that was during master's. But right now I am currently in charge of building and maintaining machine learning pipelines and also data analytics for ad optimization in Yahoo Japan, which is actually a subsidiary of SoftBank and Naver in Korea. So a typical workflow, I think I'll start with like a typical workflow, which might span a whole maybe a few months. So first I will extract big data using something something called HiveQL. And then I will then work to clean and pre-process the data. And then after cleaning the data, I will do things like exploratory data analyzation. And then from the insights I get from the analyzations, I will try a few different machine learning models because depending on data, like some machine learning models just work better with other data. So once I experiment on all these different machine learning models, I will then choose like the best performing machine learning models, then work to deploy it in a robust machine learning pipeline. And then, so this whole workflow usually takes a few months. So yeah, it's a very interesting job because there's always so many new technologies and algorithms. And I find myself always learning new things. And the people around me, my bosses too, they're also very open to new ideas. So yeah, we all constantly learning. So even like my seniors who have been here for like 10 years, they are also they're also always constantly studying and stuff. So if you are very interested in learning new things, I think this is the right career path for any of you guys who are listening. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. That was a nice, experience wrap up. I think, we've been talking about AI since just now and how it's affecting our lives. So Ms. Charla, can you please tell us what is, data science and artificial intelligence all about?
My God. Okay. Back to how do I explain to a 12-year-old?
Yeah.
But before that, I have to thank Shamim now. Because of her initiative in getting analytics in the company, Shamim, I got a loan from Maybank. No, the reason being is, so let's go back to the basics, right? I lived abroad. So, and I'm an entrepreneur. So every book that you read says, you beg, borrow, or steal money from relatives to start a business. You never loan money, right? So when I came back, I had 2 credit cards, 0 loan, and I thought I was a perfect candidate to go to any bank to ask for money to buy a home. And because I didn't have a previous record, nobody wanted to give me any loan. And I went hold on, everything that I've been taught throughout my life, suddenly did not make sense because they had this umbrella, if you don't have 3 months salary slip and you don't have X amount, you're not eligible. They don't care whether you have assets somewhere else. So Shamim, thanks for making that happen because there are other means of recognizing what's your income like. But coming back to your point of what is data science, right? So let's be clear. Data analytics is not a new term, okay? Been there for a long time. Quants have been using that. Banks have been using that. But what has changed the past 5 years? Data science has become the sexiest term to use when it comes to career, it pays well. And what has basically changed here is the amount of data that we have got thanks to the iPhones and the Samsungs, all the smartphones and the usage, the apps that came with that, and how people have started processing data, right? So the science behind that. And a lot of people, I've interviewed a lot of kids where parents follow them and they go what is this data scientist? My son is an actuary, So, so they don't seem to get what that is. A lot of people also think it's a scientist job that, you've got to be, some kind of scientist to be able to do that. Of course, having a PhD, FT and Shamim will say the research method actually helps a lot with that. And a lot of kids, I would encourage them to pursue to do at least their master's if they want to apply a job, because the way they think and the way they process stuff is different. So having said that, data analytics, using data to do jobs is not new, but the data science part of it has evolved because the huge amount of data that we have out there and how you access them in different forms. Now, you talk about AI. Now, people seem to think data science and AI is different. I'm no expert in this, but I'll simplify this, right? I mean, it's a subset of data science. Okay, so it's AI. I love using the word AI because kids watch what iRobot, person of interest, who do you target to live and die? All these movies is all about how you use data science and special algorithms to be able to collect, predict, and then these movies say that one day it's going to take over the world. And a lot of people relate AI to job loss. Okay. And all the industry panelists that we're here do want AI because not only it optimizes work, it also creates a lot of jobs out there that we cannot fill out. So, I talk to people about embracing AI and analytics in their work because this is the fear. Digitalization means, oh, the company is going to let me go. But I go like, digitalization here means nobody should be working 18 to 20 hours in front of the PC doing the same thing over and over and over again. So AI and data science help optimize that. So, we decide, who decides that, we work 8 hours, like our great-grandparents who are farmers worked for 18 hours. I'm sure they're pissed to know we work for 8 hours. And Sweden and some other countries are experimenting 4 hours work day, but it's all results-based, correct? And digitalization and analytics help that. And most of these companies that the panelists here are looking at how do we save jobs by actually repurposing them and getting them to become a data literate. So in a nutshell, data science is going to be an Excel or Microsoft Word for every company that when people get into the job, that's going to be a norm, So Shamin can code. She's a geek, she's an accountant that could do that. I'm an engineer too, FD, but I'm an engineer and I'm Indian and I cannot program to save my life. So I'm definitely an Asian F. But having said that, we all embrace analytics in so many ways and just not coding. So yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Sharla. I think the question went direct to Dr. Shamim actually now. So how can one become more data literate?
Okay, so I think it starts with the interest, and the curiosity to know why data, or what data can do. So maybe Nada, I know you have another question for me on how Maybank is using data, right, and data analytics and data science. So maybe I'll start with that first as the use case, right?
Yeah, sure.
So in terms of why this is interesting, right? For us, let's say in the bank, right? Number one, in fact, not just the bank. Now I'll talk about generally for many organizations, trying to, scale up the business. Let's say today you have a nasi lemak store, right? And then suddenly, you've got a lot of orders, right? You literally have to add more and more capacity. You have to build a bit from a store. You probably need a shop. You have to invest in buying a shop. You have to increase your rental, right? You have to hire more people and so forth. But in the world of data science and artificial intelligence, scaling up your business, right? From selling, 10 units of a pencil, maybe, or 10 units of nasi lemak, right? Or take Amazon, for example. It can literally scale up, right? And do business throughout the world literally with hardly any additional costs, right? So for businesses, this is a big deal. You can literally serve cross borders, cross countries with hardly any costs, right? With hardly any costs. So for those of you who are wanting to start your own business, right, that could be an interesting reason for you to learn data, artificial intelligence, right? Now, the second thing about artificial intelligence is that once you have the expertise to create algorithms, right, basically programs that can do recommendation engines, for example, look at what Amazon has done. It has, gone into beyond books, right? From books into electronics, into even buying into a newspaper company like Washington Post. And it's all powered through artificial intelligence. Basically, they have algorithms that can even create reports automatically, right, through natural language processing and so forth, right? So literally, now for example, the bank now, our competitors are no longer other banks. It's the tech companies, right? So people with know-how on AI, right? They are literally tech companies who can scale up to other different verticals, different businesses as well. So imagine now, you can make money very easily by scaling up both on volume as well as the business lines, right? So again, if you're interested to be a future CEO, or if you're interested to have your own company, or if you're interested in working in a company, this is the reasons why learning data is important, right? So I hope I've created some use cases there, right? Now, the second part, therefore, once the motivation to learn is there, right? Now that you can understand the power of AI, right? Then the question is, well, how do I get involved in it? So on this matter, now cats, Sharala is the expert, right? Now, so I'm not sure why this question is directed at me, but let me say from what Maybank has done, right? So the first thing is we provide foundational literacy in data. For example, learning quantitative skills at the foundational level, basic statistical skills, basic algebra. Of course, it's important, right? So I have to say that even if you're not strong on math though, anyone can pick up new skills. Don't be afraid to learn any skill, right? And you can learn, right? So basic foundational math and statistics is important. Then after that, of course, you have to go further into the programming bit, because that's how algorithms, which are based on math and stats, are then developed through programs built in Python and R. These are different programming languages. And so that upskilling on Python and R languages is important. So we have programs on that. In Maybank, what we did was, because many of our staff are very proficient in Excel, so what we did was we actually created add-ons in Excel that can run algorithms, right? And so that was the first, we created, okay, in education, we call this as a scaffold. It's like a stepping stone for you to get to the higher proficiency level. And that stepping stone is actually putting the algorithm into practice, right? Applying it. Once you see the power of it, then we graduate, then we can see literally people are more engaged and they start going into the nitty-gritties of programming and data science, right? So the scaffolding, making it simple, easy to understand is important. Now, there are many programs out there, therefore, learning programs, which takes you from foundational level right up to advanced levels. So I would encourage you, if you don't know anything about programming, take the programs which are meant for kids, right? On how to learn Python, how to learn programming. Those are absolutely easily explained to kids, and probably that helps you pick up those kind of skills, right? So those are a bit of some ways at a foundational level to acquire some data skills, right? So Nada, is that okay? Or did you want further?
No, I think that's good. It gives a lot of foundation, and also a bit of understanding to know that, this whole AI and data science, they will actually help you create more opportunities, like you said, for business owners, and to provide opportunities like what Sharala explained, the whole loan that she managed to get to target markets that you would not even think of. Yeah, but I totally understand what you mean, Miss Sharala. When I was getting my own place, that was the same thing. I'm like, what? I'm clean. I can afford it. Why am I not? Like, oh no, because you don't have a previous loan. I'm like, yeah, but that's how it works.
Child went down the thing, right? I've got to add on to what Shamin said, right? Part of our education system is an issue that we should stop streaming. Data science is not just for IT guys,
Yes.
not just for engineering. Math, statistics, communication, basic programming should be for all, and people should not be afraid of this. And I think we have to demystify, and the banks have been constantly proving that you need to demystify that you only have to come from a certain background to become that. We've got a lot of other panelists to talk to. Sorry, I thought I had to say that.
Thank you. FT, maybe you can share, on behalf of Samsung, what kind of careers can one take up once they have the right qualifications?
Okay, perhaps I'd like to define very simply, right? When people talk about algorithm, it sounds very big. Model. I always equate an algorithm to a recipe. That's the simplest form of an algorithm, right? If you follow the recipe, you will get a nice cake. But you need to know how to follow it. The one writing it, maybe not the one using it, but algorithms are not big words. We just make it big. Models, for example, are sets of algorithms that combines and they relate to each other, whatever it is. So firstly is, you're right. I think all of Shamim and Charles is right. Even people without any background can do and follow a simple recipe. And interestingly, this, right? AI somehow is like, when I say artificial intelligence, it becomes such a sexy word. I really don't understand why. Firstly, it's artificial. Why is it such a sexy word when it's artificial? Don't we like real intelligence? When real people churn out real stuff, it's not so impressive. When Jarvis, Iron Man, like the AI, comes out with certain, spewing out data, it's so impressive, right? But when we come out with, stuff, it's not so impressive. And
FT, Iron Man, okay, come on.
Sure, yeah. But Jarvis is still Jarvis, right? Cannot beat Sharala or Dr. Shamim or Sabrina. When we are real intelligence. So that's one. Secondly is data science. I look at the topic today, data science. Why data must be a science? I think data should be an art. Now, the problem with data science and artificial intelligence, when you put data science, you need to have artificial, because art, you need real intelligence. So therefore, you can't have artificial intelligence and data art. So you have data science and artificial intelligence. I know it's semantics, but what I'm saying is this, I think demystifying this is, guys, there is no such thing as AI better, real AI better, whatever it is. It's how we complement, how we use them. Now, coming back to your question about what kind of opportunity, I don't think we should put it into a box that data science, specific roles. Now, data science, data art, AI, RI, whatever I, as long as you have some I, we want you. The question is this. It is not how many people will be designing this? Not many. How many people will be using this? Everyone. The question is, how can we use this data well? Now, Dr. Shamim said that Sharala got the loan. Good, AI do it. Someone need to give that loan. Someone need to clear that loan in the credit committee if it's big enough. KYC, good, know your customer. I was in the bank for a bit. The KYC done now, you can do a lot more, a lot better. You can check a lot of data. You can then, eliminate a lot of data. You can then, sift out false negatives, false positives, etc., etc. Someone still need to make a decision. And those decision making, I think the skill of synthesizing this information That is key. Second, the ability to prioritize information. That's another key. Third, ability then to make decisions from this. All three, AI cannot help you. AI cannot make decisions for you. We have to make those decisions. It sifts information for you, but you still need to, think, put your own insight, experience into it. So in my mind I don't think there is a specific role, an opportunity that comes out from being excellent or outstanding, significantly outstanding in this particular discipline. It is the discipline of using the information, using the tool, using the infrastructure, and then translate this into some decision-making ability. I think those are important. And obviously, my short answer now is, if you know, and if you are well-equipped, you don't have to code. Not everyone can code. I'm possibly rather quantitative, I think. But if you ask me to code, I don't think I can save my life. It depends on it, if I need to code something. But can I use those information that's given to me? Do I have the discipline? Do I have the capability to make decisions from this? I guess that is something that we all need to be much, much better with right now, and do not be afraid of a tool. And I'll close with this. I fear I don't have a chance to talk again after this because time is really short. It's not a good analogy, but I call it a prosthetic, right? Imagine a smart prosthetic. Imagine a prosthetic that fits into your limbs. Can it replace a real God-given limb? No. Can it help us walk better? Yes. Can it help us move better because we don't have one, or we are handicapped in some way or another? Yes. So I cannot define augmentation in a small, simplistic manner. I always think of it as, it's not real. It's not exactly the most accurate, but I call it prosthetics, right? So none of us are worried about prosthetics, are we? But when we talk about artificial intelligence, we have an entire conference talking about, will artificial intelligence replace us? Okay, we never had, will prosthetic limbs replace God-given limbs? We never have that as a conference. So I guess, let's don't call it artificial intelligence, just call it something else. And I think the problem will go away.
Thank you, FT. Ms. Chaiping, I wanted to ask you, seeing that the need of being data literate is increasing, and like what FT and all our other panelists have mentioned, it's something that is needed for all backgrounds. It's not just to enter a certain field, right? It's something that we would like the future generations to actually have. But for this moment right now, what does Experian do to actually ensure that your current team or workforce actually remains relevant in this field?
So if it's of any consolation, I've got a HR analytics chappie who sits in my team, right? And I said, why HR? He says, because I love. Then I said, why mathematics? Because he says, I just love the analyzing and doing all the all the wonderful stuff, because HR owns so much data today, right? So if it's of any consolation, I think a lot of people, I think to what Feng Tuan was saying before, and Sharla and Shamim even, right? We always think of big data or data science, right? And you have to have an engineering degree or an IT degree or a computer science degree or a mathematics degree. I've got a psychology person who did psychology at university, and is able to draw insights, right, from the data that we have, right? So is it for everyone? Maybe not, but is it? And I think when Shamim started out as well, I think she didn't talk about just the technical qualifications. She was talking about having a curious mindset, right? Are you interested to know, right? If you're interested and you want to draw insights and perspectives from the data that you have in front of you, then that Sabrina is doing, right? You want to be a data organization. Then if you want to take a more structured route into data science, then obviously you probably need to do a degree in data science or mathematics or statistics or something a bit more technical. But, if I think about the roles that we have now, even in my own HR team, and my own, the general management side of things, right? I want them to be able to analyze and make insights of the data rather than, I can't say that they should be a data science, because I think everyone now, including myself, right, being thrown into deep end, right, of data and technology, I'm learning every day, and I've been working for more than 20 years now. I'm learning every day. And my team, did this for me yesterday as I was coming into this conference. They said, think about data science as a pizza, right? So if I can debunk it and demystify for all of us here, and especially for a layman like myself. So if data science is pizza and data, is the ingredients, right? So if data is all these ingredients that you have in front of you, algorithms then will be the appliances, like your toaster, your oven, and all that, your appliances, right? And the models that we talk about, right? And we have data modelers today. The models that we talk about are really the recipes, right? To derive your pizza. Last but not least, the predictions that you're going to have. So people call it predictive analytics and all that. And you will predict, right? If these are the ingredients, these are the steps. So it's a very methodical way. Then obviously the outcome of it will be a pizza. So that's your dish, right? So if I can kind of break it down a little bit, and I can't probably say it as eloquently as our poet engineer in Feng Tuan, right, who kind of said, prosthetic legs and all that. But, really data science, or could you call it data art one day? I think it's that ability to have that growth mindset, that curiosity that Shamim talked about, the interest and that passion for data. And what are you going to draw? What sort of insights and perspectives are you going to draw from those data sets to make, hopefully very well-informed decisions or make predictions, right, of the future and so on and so forth. So hopefully that demystifies a little bit, and hopefully that doesn't scare people away and make it feel as if it's so hard to be in, because I essentially, I'm a HR professional. And if I can deal with large data sets, I probably just need to rely on some of, my HR analytics experts in the team to draw that data for me. And then, we'll have a good discussion about what this means, right? So if I can do that in my day-to-day, I can't see why, many of you who are interested, let's say in data science, can't do it, or have an interest in data can't do it. Hopefully that answers your question, Nada.
Thanks, Jai Ping. I would like to now ask Sabrina some questions. So Sabrina, I think a lot of our viewers tuning in want to be in your position right now, where, they can relate mostly to you, where, like you said, you've just started working and you're in this field. So you're basically living the life that they want, like Feng Tuan mentioned, is the whole sexy role and things like that, especially working overseas. So I wanted to ask, what's the difference that you can see in yourself once you've become more data literate and doing your roles in your current job? Have you seen yourself developed further because of your current background and education?
Yeah, so the question is what difference I see in myself after I become more data literate. So yeah, I'm just gonna think back about how I was before I learned about like computer science and artificial intelligence, and after. So yeah, like before I started learning and learning all these skills that I need to be data literate, like programming or statistics, linear algebra and all that, like I've heard about data science and artificial intelligence, and it did sound like something very magical, like something like I like it really frustrated me. Like I did not understand what was behind it. I think that's also one reason why I wanted to do a master's behind it, because it was really frustrating, because like it seems so that you can't see it like physically. So it was very mysterious to me. But after learning, like you realize that, yeah, it's I think like all the other speakers have already like used better analogies to explain it, but you realize that actually like things like AI is just basically, you know, well, maybe not AI, machine learning is just like teaching, training machines how to learn and recognize patterns from data. So even something like logistic regression that you might have learned in statistics can also be called machine learning. Okay, I'm digressing a bit. So the question is like, what difference I see? So after I became like more aware of data and then of the actual like technical things behind like Netflix or all the recommender systems that I see online. Yeah, like, okay, one thing that I realized I become more aware about is actually my data privacy and protection. I find myself like actually disconnecting like app tracking, because like that's how they track your data to give you more recommendation. But for things like Netflix, I let them track my data because I do want more recommendation system. And then another thing that I realized is that it has helped me to ask the right questions when presented with the data. So when people say things like, oh, 80% of girls like to watch a certain movie show, then I will start to ask questions like, oh, how do you get the sample data? Like, what is the statistical significance of this number and everything? So, you know, you don't get easily swayed by data, especially in this day when there's so many fake news and stuff. You have to be able to sort of like sweep through all this data and ask the right questions to see like what is the actual okay, I'm not finding the right English name for it, but like what I want to say is like to be able to read through data and and have like logical thinking based on actual statistics and mathematical skills. But yeah, I think these are the few things that I see in myself, at least.
You question things more, right? Because like, you know, everyone's talking about the vaccines for now. Everyone's talking about the efficacy rate. So what's the sample size? When was it done? So it does drive a lot more questions to you when you look at data, because it's not as simple as you know, just numbers that you see. I think we have actually been receiving quite overwhelming questions from the floor. So I'll open that straight away. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Okay, it's a BBC moment. It's okay. Let your kids talk. It's fine. If Shamin can have the neighbor's dog barking, you can have your kids talking. It's fine.
Thank you. So we have a question from Amir Shukri. He's from the University of Edinburgh. And he's studying mechanical engineering. And he basically said he had a chat with Maybank on their management associates and understanding more about the company. And he's going through his application. But just a general question to everybody, how does a candidate now strengthen their application in terms of skills in order to meet the evolving needs for data science, or to be a data scientist or anything like that? Because, you know, these candidates would have gone to uni a few years back and they might not have ventured into that role. But now there is a demand and need for it. How does he or any talent right now prepare themselves for the applications that's available now?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Now, since you're preparing to you know, interview with Maybank, I'll be happy to share, you know, what are the things that we look for. I think we always strive to look for people who have that passion, right? In whatever jobs that we put out there. Now, the passion, the way we assess passion, for example, is what has the person done in that particular area, right? So if, let's say, we're posting a job on data science, then it would be great to see what are the projects that you have done in data science, right? Have you created some new recommendation engine? Have you created some stock picking you know, algorithm, right? Have you created some, you know, fraud detection system? There's so many applications in data science, right? So if the candidate can show and demonstrate that they've done something in that particular area, right, that would be a really strong candidate. So it's not just going through an online course and getting a certificate, but I think what differentiates candidates nowadays is that some candidates really show their portfolio, hey, this is what I've done, right? And some candidates even say that I've even started my own business, right? And I've failed and I've learned from it. And there we are assessing what we love is the growth mindset, which Chai Ping was talking about, that curiosity and so forth, and that resilience. Because I think, there's a lot of studies now. Now I'm going back to my data science researcher mode, right? A lot of studies that talk about what makes a successful person is simply that resilience, that grit, that growth mindset, right? So those softer skills is very important. Then the other skill that I would say is social ethical leadership skills. In today's day and age, right? Simply making profits is no longer important. I mean, it's no longer sufficient. Okay, I'm not going to say it's no longer it's important, but that's not enough, because literally, investors are looking to invest in companies that do good. Okay, so in our case, for example, in Maybank, it's about humanizing financial services. It's about connecting people to financing. It's about giving Shah her loan and making sure that she can pay it as well, right? So we also don't confuse the situation here, but but you get the point. It's about social ethical leadership. The ethics part, I think Sabrina mentioned, it's very extremely important because of the proliferation of data. There is literally a lot of things that people can do and misuse. Now, data by itself, in fact, Sabrina, I think, was alluding to that already, right? Sometimes the data set that you have is biased. I'll give you an example. Amazon.com had a hiring algorithm that was looking for programmers, right? And lo and behold, Amazon.com had a lot of male programmers. So what that algorithm did was it actually predisposed, if you are a male, right, applying to Amazon.com, hey, you had a better chance of success than a female, even though a female may have all the great skills, right? But the algorithm can be biased based on the data that you have. So as a data scientist, as a person going forward, right, what are the skills that you need? I think is to also demonstrate that you are able to take a step back and to have that judgment skills, which FT mentioned about, right? Whether this is the right thing to do, whether this algorithm is fair, is equitable, it's not biased, right? And promotes the right value system, right? And because we have a responsibility, most companies have a responsibility to all their employees, to customers, to shareholders, and so forth. Okay, hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Dr.
It's amazing. He's going to apply a job for Maybank, and then we also have Chai Ping for experience in some sort. On the other hand, if there's a lot of Malaysian students who have graduated and have not been doing analytics in university, there's a lot of programs the government offers, right? A lot of them to enable this Industry 4.0, getting jobs within companies. So I would encourage the students to embrace that. CATS itself, we run this program called Data Star. It's an initiative we started 2016. Mainly, again, the Southeast Shah. I'm a local graduate. I went to UKM and I left the country, right? So would like to think I'm one of the few brains that drained out. And then, when I come back, how do I stop people like us leaving? And then how do I bring back people like us so that we don't go to Singapore to work, right? Because I left because I didn't have something sexy to do anymore. So I wanted more. So that is why when we started Data Star, a lot of companies were complaining that they didn't have the talent and they were poaching from every other company. The unicorn is a mythical animal, right? It doesn't exist, but everybody wants that unicorn to be in that. We started an initiative to ask companies to say, why don't you invest on a fresh grad that's more or less been trained up in a boot camp? And then in 2 years' time, they will be your data scientist. You know what I mean? Cheap, relatively. But in the long run, if you seed them now, then down the road, everybody will benefit. So I do want you to expose that, Malaysians, even Singapore has that, a lot of programs that allow them to become a data professional which you can start from basic. So that's something that I think. And you see the panelists are saying that they're not looking for a certain graduate. They're looking for graduates who can show that they want to learn and change. And that's what I think is the first move we need to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I think what you brought up is a very important point. A lot of graduates are lost, and they didn't even know that there's that much opportunities here. Bringing to that, we have a question for FT. So we have a candidate here who is saying that he's a fellow engineer as well, and he would like to ask you, what advice you would give for a 20-year-old version of yourself, starting into the workforce at this point.
Well, I think, 20-year-old, that's a long time ago. If I can go back and tell a 20-year-old me, I think, we won't be talking about artificial intelligence. I don't know. We'll be talking about time travel. So that's even more awesome. I would probably tell myself three things. I grew up having the notion that outcome is everything. Being in a middle class Chinese family, obviously an engineer, so my parents chose engineering for me. So outcome driven. But what I would say to myself is context is more important than content. So sometimes you have all the content in the world, but if it's not contextualized, it's meaningless. So that's one. Even now, I'm telling myself this every day. Content is important, but without context, it's irrelevant. Number two is I think, and I put a lot of emphasis on being articulate. Eloquence is important, right? And projecting and positioning yourself in a certain way is important. It is important. But I would tell, after so many mistakes and trial and errors over the years, I probably would tell my younger self, being curious. And I couldn't agree more, asking the right questions. Actually, don't even have to ask the right question. Just ask questions. Wrong questions sometimes is better than the right questions. Ask something. But I think I'm not that different from many graduates now, that we are only interested in the answers, never interested in the question. And the third one is this, put more emphasis on solution than the answer. Getting good grades is answering very well. Passing exams excellently. But when you come to the real world, nobody cares about the answer because nobody has the answer. We have to find those solutions ourselves. And most of the time, it's in very unprecedented situation like what we are facing now, right? So there are no answers. All of us are trying and grapple with the situation and try to find those answers now. So those are the three things. Context, not content. Curiosity first, eloquence, yes. If you are not able to speak very well, just ask question in very bad English or Chinese or whatever, but ask. And thirdly is focus on the solution and stop trying to find the answer. So those would be the three I would tell myself. And I'm still telling it to myself now. Every time I'm running into a trap of trying to have an answer to everything. Sometimes, shutting up when you think you the answer, ask yourself some very critical questions. And most of the time, you suddenly find out, maybe the answer that I thought was best may not be the best.
Thanks, FT. I think those are very good advice for anybody. Like you said, even now, you need to sometimes remind yourself and think back and okay, don't just speak, think first before you act and things like that. I have someone who's mentioning that, locally, the adoption of data analytics and science is still in its infancy. Does that mean that we would need to, if someone who's got a master's or is really eloquent in this role, are there opportunities for them here, or, would traveling overseas and looking for careers overseas might be best? Or what advice would, maybe we can have Chai Ping or even Ms. Sharala to give your feedback on this. And, Sabrina can also give your feedback on how has it been living overseas and being in this field?
I think importantly, Sabrina should come back and help our economy. No, I'm teasing. No, I think FT and Shamim and Taiping should please chip in, right? The demand is there. I mean, when we started CATS in 2014, I think there was about a handful of claimed data scientists in the country, about 80. And then the following year, we have 300. Now with LinkedIn, we do a lot of work with them, and there's about, about 15,000 data scientists in Malaysia, and we are all still wanting to have more and more because it's never enough. I think it's the past story to think that companies are not adopting, because fortunately or unfortunately, the pandemic has just brought forward the whole need for digitalization, analytics. People think digitalization here means buy an infra and you're done. No, digitalization, a business being digital means they have to become data driven. And if they have to become data driven, then everybody in the company have to be a data literate. So that's how it's going to work, right? And that's brought forward. And I don't think that's no more the truth. I mean, 4 years ago, yeah, I would watch for it when I was talking to companies. There are more advanced companies that got into the journey very early on, and they could actually ride the wave of the pandemic. We just had a meeting with a company that actually said that they had to go back to the board and ask them to write off their analytic budget and restart again, because they invested a lot in infra and not talent. And the pandemic couldn't save them, and they have to start back the journey. And that's real. So, it's just getting the right fit. More and more companies are beginning to realize how they hire has to be different. We had a lot of data scientists, like, Sabrina says that she's more cautious about, turning on her tracking data. My data scientists won't even talk in a room where there's Alexa, right? Because it's listening. Okay, paranoia to the next level. We had data star students who go for interviews, and when the candidate was asked their name, and they will go like, no, I'm not saying my name. And the interviewer was like, why? Because, it's my data privacy. You will use this. So they're designed differently. And then we had to work with, the hiring candidates, hiring managers, that how do you get these people to think differently, because they are wired differently, and they also have to train data practitioners to talk about. Once you talk about data, then their passion comes out. You talk about everything else, they are not interested. So we have changed that quite a bit, I think, and our country is probably in the right track, because I want us to be more of an innovative country than just manufacturing and somebody passing sweatshops. We lost Grab to Singapore. We have to get more innovative companies and stay in Malaysia, and we need the talent. Yeah. Typing, please, add in.
No, I was going to jump in there, and as an employer, and we hire so many, and I said that over the last few years we've had 50% increase in headcount, and I'm really proud of not just myself but the team, and that so much lobbying going to the global stakeholders to say Malaysia is a great place, and we produce the talents, right? We produce and showcase the talent, and our local talents have gone on to win all sorts of whatever hackathons and this and that, globally driven. So I think my appeal, to if the grads here or about to be grads listening in, don't be afraid. I think Shamim mentioned this as well, right? Showcase the stuff that if you're really passionate about data science, if you're really passionate about being a data case that. But if there are employers, in the room as well, I think what's really important, we as employers, right, got to, take that bold step forward. And now I challenge my hiring managers. I challenge them to say that if you think that you're going to lose someone who's got 8 years experience or 12 years experience, and you want to hire the same sort of people, I'm going to challenge you and say, can you then please start thinking about hiring very differently, hiring a fresh grad, right? And I do that for my own team, and I'm challenging my hiring managers. The dial have shifted and beginning to shift even more, because I think it's important for employers and my hiring managers to think differently, because if you can't build and we keep buying from industry, what we'll end up doing is we're only going to cannibalize our own industry. And I say this a lot, right? And we can't cannibalize if we want to get into that digital economy, right? Because we are no longer just contending with another software developer house. You know, we are contending with the Maybanks of the world. We are contending with, you know, the telcos of the world, the Samsungs of the world, and so on and so forth, right? And if, you know, people always think that we're competing with, you know, similar industry, you know, and all that. So if we are not, as industry players, then, you know, I really want to urge us to kind of say, give the young ones a chance. And you young ones out there who are listening in, right? Give yourself a chance as well, and make sure that, you know, when you come to the table, when you get that opportunity to showcase, right, that first interview, even if it's virtual, right, make sure your passion comes shining through, right? Because it's your one shot, right? To kind of showcase, hey, you know, I've done some modeling, you know, I just interviewed someone and, you know, he's applying for a HR role incidentally, but he's telling me all the wonderful, you know, he's come up with some app and all that. I said, are you sure you want to work in HR? And he says, yeah, you know, I came up with this app because I want to make your life easier. I was looking at him and I was like, for a moment, I was honestly dumbfounded, right? So it's an appeal to you young ones, you know, who are graduating, about to graduate, or, you know, still midway through school. Think about what you really want. If you're really passionate about data, go for it and showcase some of the stuff. I think, as I said, Shamim and Shara talk about it. If there is an employer out there, and I'm obviously appealing to my fellow panelists as well, right? If you're an employer out there listening in as well, please, you know, give these young ones, you know, a chance, because we all started, you know, with nothing, right? And we all got somewhere because someone gave us that chance. So yeah, I'll pause there, Nada. Thanks.
Thanks, Chapping. And on that note, I wanted to say, Sabrina, we're really impressed and really proud of what you've actually achieved. I think everyone's very, very, you know, like we said, we really, see, I'm actually lost for words to say, because when I found out about what you're doing and where you are, and to be working in Yahoo Japan and doing data scientist with a master's degree, I think it's something that you're really, really capable. Maybe you can share a little bit about why you love data scientists and let us feel your passion a little bit just before we end off.
Okay. So I'm just gonna talk everything based on just my experience. So
yes,
don't take it as like the absolute truth. It's just my experience. So I was actually an electrical and electronics engineer when I was in undergrad. So I was actually doing electronic stuff. So yeah, when I was undergrad, I didn't do like a lot of like programming, just the basic stuff that you need to get by in electronics. But I only started to get interested maybe around my third year of undergrad. Like I actually started with application development for iOS. So Apple has this very simple language called Swift, which is very easy for beginners like me at that time. So I was just interested on building things, like making things, and then trying to find solutions to solve problems. And I thought like the best way for someone with me, like who only have a computer, I have no like factory or anything, is to build an app. So that's my first step towards the IT world. So after I took that first step in the IT world, I learned more about like artificial intelligence, machine learning. And I think around that time, deep learning has just recently surged in popularity. I think it was around 2014 when a deep learning model called convolutional neural network really like won like this really big competition. And since then, it's been like very popular, and people were interested in this model, like how is it able to achieve accuracy more than human beings. So it was very interesting, like to know that machines are capable of doing things better than us human beings actually. So actually we also have our own biases. Sometimes we also make mistakes more than machines. So yeah, so that was my first interest. And then in my third year of undergraduate, I searched for postgraduates around Japan, because I was in Japan at that time, that did like artificial intelligence. So I sent emails to professors and stuff. Would you be interested in not hiring me, but are you open to like a master's students with no like computer science degree? So I don't know, they took a chance with me. Just I think like as Taiping was saying, like, sometimes you have to give chance to someone. I think like the professors also gave a chance to me. So yeah, as long as you have like the basic statistics, mathematical skills, it's never too late to start studying. If you are interested in a technical career, to start studying about machine learning or programming for machine learning. So yeah, I think like after I got into master's is when I started doing the really technical stuff, and I had a very good professor who guided me throughout the very, very competitive world of computer vision. It's actually kind of saturated right now, not just universities, but also companies like Google, Amazon. They have more human resources and funding. So it was very competitive for universities to compete with them to publish papers. But the competitive make it more like, I don't know, like, because there were so many people in the industry, like the information, even though it's competitive, we're still open to sharing information. That's one thing I like about this industry. Like they are very open to sharing, like, people open source their apps, people open source their platform, and they're always like, oh, if you have any new functions that you want, you can open an issue in GitHub and, send your solutions. They're very open to people criticizing or improving their stuff. So that's one thing. But yeah, like, so yeah, that's how I started with a master's in computer science. And after actually getting there and then learning about the potential applications of artificial intelligence really made me want to have a career in data science, but not just in research. So that's why I decided to not do my PhD first and go into industry first to actually see what real life problems there are to be solved. Because sometimes when you're in research, you are very stuck in this very small mindset. Like when I was in research, all I was thinking about is how to improve this accuracy. Like sometimes I forget about the problems that you are trying to solve. You are just very stuck about like, okay, what if I, change? What if I add a layer here and maybe change like the loss function here? Will that give me a 0.001% accuracy? Like, sometimes research, you are stuck in that set. So yeah, that's why I got into industry, to actually look for real life problems to solve. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It definitely did.
Yeah.
I think it just shows everyone that, especially those without a background in computer science, that you need to put yourself out there and hope that on the other side, someone will give you a shot, what goes around will come around. So hopefully there will grow a new breed of people interested in this, and the new generation will all be equipped with the skills required. I think you've actually shared a very passionate story, and you've made all of us proud. I wanted to say thank you to all the panelists. From the comments and questions that we've received, I think everyone really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. I hope you all also enjoyed sharing and learning from each other. Perhaps we can actually, do this again sometime soon. But in the meantime, everybody, thank you and stay safe.